Welcome everybody to SDP Connect. I'm Judy Mark, President of Disability Voices United, and we're so happy to have you here. This is our last SDP Connect of the year. We will not be having one in 2 weeks because it's between Christmas and New Year's. So we want to thank everybody for your amazing support of SDP Connect over the past 2022, and we started it in 2020. So we're really thrilled to have you here. Hold on, I need to just share it on live. So today we're going to talk about a couple of things. How many of you out there went to our conference? Go woot woot. Yay, Howard Broom was at our conference. He was a speaker. Marie was also a speaker. And so were Connie and Harvey, and so was Lori Walker. And thank you all for joining us. The conference was a great success, although we have to admit that we're super glad it's over. But after our speaker presents, we are going to talk a bit about the conference and the outcomes of the conference, because I think there were some really amazing things that happened. But before we do that, I want to introduce Reina Factor. Reina is with the amazing UCLA Tarjan Center, which is a university center for excellence in developmental disabilities. And probably maybe you should start, Reina, with just summarizing a little bit of what you all do there, because I think that would be helpful. A lot of people may not have ever heard of it. But one of the things that Reina is in charge of there is working with the State Council on Developmental Disabilities and Disability Rights California on getting out a questionnaire, a survey to people in the regional center system, both who are in the self-determination program and not in the program, but maybe are interested in it. And doing actually a report to the state legislature on people's experiences in the program. And so many of you may have gotten this little paper in the mail. And I know I did, and I saw there was a phone number on it, and I called the phone number and I sent an email saying, wow, if you're doing this, you should come on SDP Connect. And Reina agreed to do that, and we're so happy. And Reina, by the way, is like the nicest person in the world. She has just been a doll to correspond with, always very wonderful. So thank you so much for joining us, Reina. And why don't you get started in telling us a bit about this survey?
Well, thank you so much. That was such a wonderful introduction. I'm so excited to be here and to talk with everyone. As Judy mentioned, my name is Reina Factor. I'm with the UCLA Tarjan Center. I am the Director of Outreach and Dissemination. And so I'm really focusing on creating community connections, and as part of that, I'm working on this self-determination evaluation project. And so we are working with the state council and with regional centers as well. And so we're really kind of sending this out to people because we want to hear about people's experiences with this program. And then we'll be able to take all of the results and then put together a report to talk to the legislation and say, this is what's working, this is what's not working. And I believe that a number of people probably received that flyer in the mail. Some people might not have, and there is a link to the survey as well. And we can make sure to share that with people as well. And you can also access this. There's a QR code, so you can scan that on your phone as well. And so that's kind of an overview about what the survey kind of aims to capture. And it should really be, take about 5 minutes or less. And there is, and you can choose to add your email, and then there will be a drawing for an Amazon gift card. And we know that Amazon is great. So that is kind of the option. And it looks like we put the link in there. So if anyone didn't receive that flyer in the mail. So this survey is designed not only for individuals who are in the program, as was mentioned, but also people who aren't in the program yet, who maybe were in the program, aren't anymore, who are going to be in the program. We want to hear about all of those experiences. And this is designed also for parents, caregivers to fill it out, also for individuals to fill out. Some questions might not be pertinent or might not really apply to you. And that's okay. We were kind of following a guidelines of what they really wanted us to measure. And so that kind of helped us in creating the questions. And I'll share the survey, go through each question, and you can fill it out. Again, online, it should be pretty quick. And then there's also an email that if you have any questions, that you can email, and I'll probably be the one to respond to that. Email is probably the quickest way to reach us. Also, there's a phone number you can call as well if you do have some questions. And so we do receive questions from people. Some people have asked, is there a link? Or if I was a part of it, I'm not anymore, can I still fill this out? So we're happy to answer any of those questions. And also help too, if you're kind of wondering, how do I go about doing this? We can also help kind of walk you through that. And if the QR code isn't working, again, that link should be working. And also you can email us if it seems like neither of those are working, because we want to know. I think that both of them are up and running now, and we're kind of testing them. So they should be good to go. Right. And so I can share the survey and go through kind of each question. I want to ask, and I'm not sure how you usually kind of run these sessions, but if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer questions.
So can we run through it, Reina, and then we'll open it up to everybody for questions, okay?
Absolutely.
And folks should know that you can ask questions in the chat, or you can use the raise hand feature, which you'll find at the bottom of your screen under reactions, and you'll raise your hand just like I did.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to go through the survey. So it should look like this. And again, you can access this on your phone or on your computer. So we have a question. So it starts with, where do you live? And you can check all that apply. And we also have, if it doesn't meet one of those criteria, then if other, you can specify where you do live. Then we ask, how pleased are you? Where you live and who you live with. So you can check these options, and some of these are, these options are kind of, you'll see them throughout the questions. So again, they range from very unhappy to very pleased. And so you can kind of check which one applies. We also ask who you live with, and we'll say check all that apply. For the questions where you can choose more than one answer, because we know that some people live with both parents and siblings. And so you can check both of those. And if there's someone else and it's not in one of these categories, you can definitely write that in. And then we also ask, do you have a service plan? And we state what that is. And this is some of the language that we were told to use in terms we're thinking about the self-determination program. And we also had one of our wonderful self-advocates make sure this was all in plain language. So
So just real quick, Reina, I'm sorry to interrupt, but this has come up in the chat. And the term service plan is not a term that we know. It's not a term that any of us have ever used. It's not used in the traditional system, nor is it used in the SDP. So what do you mean by a service plan?
This was actually a term that, so people told us, and this is kind of lays out all the services that you receive. What term do you use?
We use the IP. So if you're in the self-determination program, well, everybody has an IPP or an individual program plan, which is different than a service. I mean, maybe it means the same thing, the IPP as a service plan, but in the California, we don't use that term. They do. I knew what you meant. I was just going to ask you because I work on federal issues, but I know that in California, it's not a term we use. In the self-determination program, we use the term PCP or person-centered plan, which is a very critical part, I think should be asked about in this. I don't know if you did. I have to admit, everybody, I have not yet filled out this questionnaire. I've just been really busy, but I plan on doing it right after this. But I don't know if you asked about the person-centered plan, but to us, that is the gold standard, the PCP. And then that informs the meeting you have with the regional center, which is the individual program plan or the IPP.
Got it. Well, thank you so much. And that is not a term actually that I had heard. And I want to make sure, of course, that this kind of reflects the language that you're used to hearing. So we can definitely make some modifications with that. That is definitely what we are trying to get at in saying service plan. However, I want to make sure that it does say, so PCP.
Yes. So the PCP is all your hopes and dreams, right? And then the IPP is your service plan. So if you're using the term service plan, I would guess that what you mean is the individual program plan.
Okay. And I am taking notes.
Okay, great.
Wonderful.
See, you should have come to us. The SDP Connect, we could have helped you write this whole thing.
I know. I love it. Well, thank you all so much. And any other questions too, or anything other language that you're not sure about, or we can change, definitely let us know. So when we're talking about the service plan, know that it does mean the IPP. And again, we'll go in and make that change. So what level of involvement did you have? How pleased are you? Who makes decisions in terms of how you use your support? So thinking about the budget, hiring staff, the services, etc.
And so just real quick, just because most of the people who certainly parents of smaller children are going to be filling this out, certainly. And then in many cases, like in my case, my son would not be able to fill out some of these questions. And so when you're seeing the word myself, it's okay for a parent to fill this out, right? I just want to make that very clear that a parent can fill this out on behalf of their child. Okay.
Yes. And I believe, and later we do have a question that says, are you a parent?
Okay.
Or caregiver? Okay. So that kind of clarifies.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yes. So anyone can fill this out. All right. So how well do you understand your service plan or your IPP? How easy is it for you to make changes? How in control do you feel about your plan? And that's your IPP. And then these are some questions that are in first person. And so it does get a little bit confusing, but you can also think if the individual you're filling it out for isn't able to answer these things, then maybe you can answer some of them like, okay, I know that my child has met their case manager or their service coordinator. So you can fill that out. I have enough help deciding how to use my budget or services. Also, I have friends that I like to talk to, spend time with. So this is really kind of quality of life questions. So think about, I can do things that I enjoy. My services and supports help me to have a good life. Then how easy is it to understand information about services and or the budget?
Okay.
How often do you receive information about that? And so we give some time, so like weekly, monthly, a few times a year. And if it's other, then you can specify.
So I'm just sorry that because I'm honestly, I haven't read this because this is how busy I've been.
No,
when you ask this question, Reina, on how often do you receive information on your budget or services, they're very different things. So the budget in the self-determination program is the annual amount of money that a self-determination participant gets to be able to implement their self-determination program. Services are very different. So in the traditional system, budget and services are kind of the same thing. But in SDP, services, you're in charge of your own services. So receiving information about your services is a little bit odd because you don't need external information. You're in charge of your own services. So it's not a passively receiving the information. So that question may be, I don't know if other people saw that as a confusing question, but I'm a little bit confused about which one you're asking about here.
Okay.
And the other thing is that there's something in addition to the budget, Reina. There's also the budget as well as your spending plan. So your spending plan is how you're spending down your funds based on how you've decided to spend your money. And that is information you need to be getting on a very regular basis from your FMS. The budget is something you'd get more likely annually from your regional center. So those are two very different questions, your budget versus your spending plan. So you may want to split. I know it's too late because you've already gotten so many responses, but that they're different questions and equally important, I feel.
Absolutely. Well, that's really good to know. And again, I am writing notes on all of these things. So, I appreciate that and all of the feedback, and definitely will think about, okay, what can we change? Okay. So then we're talking about paid job in the community. Do you volunteer? As we were talking about before, if your child is, say, they're, in elementary school, they probably wouldn't have a paid job. And so the answer can be no. And we ask for age later as well. And we'll look at all of that. And we also say,
and so just question. So just to clarify, if you have a small child, let's say you have a 5-year-old in the program, obviously they're not going to have a job. So you don't have to answer every question. You can just skip the questions that are not appropriate to you.
I believe so. I can check the settings again, just to see if they're kind of mandatory. If that is the case where they are mandatory, then you would just say no for those. But if you can skip the questions, absolutely. But I can check the settings again.
Yeah, or you could just add a not applicable or something as a third choice if you needed to make it. Okay.
Yeah. Then we
okay. So Michelle Poster is saying that you're required to answer every question. So,
okay.
Okay.
And we'll add, I like that, adding an NA. And yes, and now I'm recalling we did make it that way because we wanted to make sure that people answered each question. All right. What's going on my screen? All right. So do you participate in community groups? Are there activities in your community? Have you ever participated in self-advocacy, group meetings, conferences, or events? And would you be interested in doing so? I feel my service providers have the right training to meet my needs. Then we ask, are you currently enrolled in the self-determination program? And then if you were previously enrolled and are no longer enrolled, please explain why. So we want to hear why you're no longer part of the program. We also want to hear, would you recommend the program? And also asking if you're pleased with your experience. Again, you can absolutely answer these. If you're a parent, a caregiver, we want to hear about your experiences. And then if you're not pleased, explain why, what benefits, and what barriers. This is very important. And I know even from talking with people, hearing anecdotally, people have different experiences. And so it's really important to share what you have experienced in the self-determination program. Then we ask, what improvements would you recommend? So that's where you can give any feedback. We want to know how you heard about the program, and you can check all that apply. And if there's other, then you can also include that. Then what was the primary reason you participated? Asking about your zip code, then your regional center, and they're all listed here, so you can check which one you're part of or your child is part of. Participant gender, and this is optional. And then age, race, ethnicity. And then we also ask, are you of Hispanic or Latino, Latina origin?
So the you in that case is the participant, not the parent?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. We ask here relationship to the self-determination program participant. So that's where it's very clear if it's
about who's filled out this form.
Yes.
You might want to say it directly like that, Reina, like who has filled out this form?
Okay.
The participant, the parent, or who else? Yeah.
Great. Okay. And then, so we say, are you or do you have a legal guardian or conservator? And then we say kind of what that is. So that's where an individual can say yes, or you can say, yes, I do. I am considered in one of those roles. Then we talk about diagnoses, check all that apply. There's something else that's not here, then you can write that in. The primary language that you speak, what the budget is that you have, including adjustments.
Your self-determination program budget?
Yes.
Not everybody's going to fill that out, so I wouldn't make that mandatory. People are very secretive about that. You should know. So just heads up.
No, that's very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. We also want to know what services are received, the amount of services received, if that's 20 hours a week or what that looks like. And then
well, that's going to be, that might be hard. I don't know. Other people can jump in. I know we've gotten tons of questions in the chat, but amount of services received, I think it's going to be hard to define. Like, because for some people it's like, oh, I took one class and I really enjoyed it. But that was just one time. And then I joined a gym, and then I have somebody to take me to church on Sunday mornings. And then I also have a personal trainer once a month. And I mean, it's like, my son's spending plan's 3 pages. So it's hard to define. Anyway, you might get some confusing stuff in there.
Okay. That's good to know. And then this is the last question. And then optionally, you can add your email. So you can choose not to add it or to add it. And this is to be entered into the raffle.
That's great. So keep sharing your screen, because I've seen a bunch of questions come up.
Wonderful.
On specific stuff. But first I'm going to go to folks with their hands raised, if that's okay, Reina.
Yes.
I mean, I'm sorry to interrupt you and everything.
No, I love it. It's wonderful.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's start with Fernando Gomez. Go ahead, Fernando.
Yes. Good afternoon. And Reina, thank you for being here today and for sharing this really important survey. And of course, we wish you the best in being successful, and of course with the collaboration that you're working with. My name is Fernando, and I represent the Integrated Community Collaborative. We do organic community outreach and engagement, and also a parent and of a young man at 16 who's going into his third year in self-determination. So I understand and appreciate the value of this survey, but I do have several concerns. The first one is that the one community among many, but the one defined community that I believe we should be hearing from and obtaining this type of data is the Latino community, which is the largest served and the most impacted by not only the barriers and the ability to navigate a complex system. Unfortunately, using technology is a challenge, and then trusting the system is an additional challenge. So to be able to, if you're able to finally get somebody to navigate and open the survey, to be able to really truly be able and answer all these questions, there are probably not going to be a reality. So this is the one group you will not hear from, not the way it's presented, at least from my opinion. Like Judy mentioned, there's a lot of information that it's kind of very personal and private. And we as Latinos do not trust the system in general. And so not understanding who you are and what your objective is and truly why you're using this information, we think that you're really getting information. Now here again, I'm speaking in general terms, so I know there's differences across the board, but I'm speaking in general terms that there will be people who will not trust the system or the process. In addition to that, it's a little discombobulated as when you're asking me about self-determination and then you start asking me about employment. I'm wondering, well, why are you doing that? And there's nothing that leads me into understanding why that question is relevant and why you're seeking that, especially if I have a 16-year-old who's, interested in doing things, but working. So that's probably more of a age-related question. The other thing, and this is a key area, is that I'm a little confused when you ask about ethnicity. You put Latinx and Hispanic, which are not two terms that I relate to, and I mean many of us in the community. The term Latinx is one that's not by the community used and adapted. I think less than 3% of the community does. It's an extremely important one, and it's one that we embrace, but it's not how we identify. So I get the question where you say the Latino, Latina, then I'm like, well, did I answer the first one right? Because Latinx, Hispanic, no, but then Latino, okay, well, yeah, Latino, Latina. So it's a little confusing on that in that aspect. And I can go on, but I know I've thrown a lot out there. And here again, I don't want to dampen the spirit of collecting this information, but I think it could probably be a little more vetted. The other, if you were to say, well, Fernando, what is your recommendation? I think that the really, truly way to obtain the right information data is literally being in the same room with the individuals and walking them through the process. So that's my 2 centavos worth. Thank you.
I want to thank you so much for that input, and definitely that's something that we kind of thought about, and the hope is that this will kind of be the initial gathering of information, and then our hope is that we can do something that more of focus groups or something like that, as you mentioned, to really talk with people and to be in the room, as you said, with them. So that's what we're hoping to do. And we kind of realized, what are our limits in doing this? And so that's why we're kind of doing things digitally. I think that all the points you brought up are fantastic. And so my hope is that down the road, we will be able to address some of those. So I really appreciate your input.
And thank you, Reina. I appreciate that. And thank you, Judy, for letting me just use the last point is that I specifically talked about the Latino community, but of course this transcends across all cultures and the diversity within our community, because there are different nuances. So understanding those, I think, is really important as you put this into play. So.
And Reina, how many different languages is this survey translated into?
So right now, oh, and I am forgetting. So the flyer, I believe, was in, let's say we have 8 different languages
okay, great.
on it. The survey right now, I believe so far it's only in English. And we'll see if we're able to make it in some other ones.
Oh, wow. It's going to need to get into Spanish. We have a very large Spanish-speaking population in this SDP and in the system generally. So yeah, wow. Okay, that's great. And I'm sorry, I'm going to go to Connie and Nina next, but I just have another question because I'm trying to be super supportive right now because first of all, I helped to write the bill that became the law, and we put in the survey very intentionally. But the survey was actually given to the State Council on Developmental Disabilities in collaboration with Disability Rights California and the UCEDs. And so I'm wondering, because I know you probably haven't been intimately involved in the self-determination program like the State Council has been. And I'm wondering sort of what your collaboration has looked like with the State Council and with DRC, and how some of these terminology, they should have been able to correct you on it because you're not out there putting yourself out there as the SDP expert. So how has the collaboration worked?
Yeah, so we have actually worked very closely with State Council and forgetting some of our other state partners. And so even in creating this, and they shared resources, and that's actually how we have some of this language too. And we have had multiple meetings because you're right, I'm not an expert in this at all. So we have collaborated on this.
Yeah. So, all right. So I think then some of the concerns I have, I will definitely take up with the State Council and with DRC, because they are much more experts on the self-determination program than we would ever expect the Tarjan Center to be. But we would expect you to be more of an expert on surveys and how you get the community to respond to surveys and how to make it plain language. But some of the terminology is just a little bit off on this, and that should have absolutely been caught by the State Council and DRC, who are very, very involved. The other thing that I would just recommend is that it takes a long time to get to the point of this being an SDP survey. There's a lot of questions that are in the national core indicators that I think the first 10 or 12 questions are already in a survey that's being done by the State Council. They're more generic stuff. And so we may want to either eliminate those or at least add those towards the end and really start at the outset with the self-determination program so people know why they're doing this survey. So anyways, just a couple of suggestions.
Okay. I appreciate that. Definitely.
Okay. I'm going to go to Connie. Go ahead, Connie.
Hi, Reina. Welcome. Thank you for coming here and explaining it. And most important, thank you for being so open. I want to echo all the comments. I'm a parent. My son's 54. We've been in the system a very long time. And so I've gone through surveys. I've gone through a lot of machinations of how to assess the system. I'm really worried about this survey. Again, I thank you for your openness, but it's way too complicated and long. I echo what Judy and Fernando said. It would be daunting for me. And it makes me sad to think that the person-centered plan, which is the cornerstone of self-determination, isn't even mentioned. And it's not just the IPP. Again, I'm not blaming you. I'm just explaining. Absolutely. And a lot of times surveys are intimidating to families and people with disabilities because they're afraid they'll lose the services if they're negative. And so I imagine this is anonymous if you choose to.
Yeah.
But there's so much information that I would still think that people might be nervous about it. And my other concern is that this has already gone out. We didn't receive one. My son didn't receive one. So I'm going to ask for another one. But then if this is going to be re-looked at, then I'm thinking, correct, is this going to be the one? These surveys are really important. Self-determination's rollout, I don't know if you're aware, is very, very slow. I'm one of the people that helped write the law, and I'm on the board of Disability Voices United. And I'm somebody, my son's 54 and quite challenged. So I get nervous with surveys. They're important and they need to, and we put them in the law, but very often they're intimidating. And this is a lot of information. So good luck. I mean, I want to say, could you start over? I mean, it's already been sent out, and I'm afraid that it's going to get
person-centered plans, everything.
I'm afraid about the result of it. But I thank you for coming, and I wish you good luck. And Judy and Fernando are great resources. So is DVU. But we need to relook at this. This is really a lot of information that is confusing. Sorry, I'd like to be. No. I mean, I know you want to hear what our concerns are, and that's why I'm here. So
absolutely. No, I so appreciate hearing that. And definitely we were trying to be mindful of how long it is. And I think hearing that is very helpful.
Thanks.
Definitely. So thank you.
Thanks. And I just want to let my staff know that Ed has, I think, possibly a power outage or something, because she's not on currently. And I don't believe Kira is on either. So I am currently in charge of everything, which is never, ever good, people. So if something goes wrong, I will not take any blame, even though I am completely in charge. Oh, Ed's back. Yay. She just texted me. Shoo. All right, good. All right, I'm going to make Ed the host, because the most important thing is that I am not the host. But I'm not. Why am I not finding you, Ed? Ed, I cannot find you. Your name is Judy Mark. She came in as me. That's why. Okay. Hold. I can't. Okay. I think you're host. Okay. I think you're already host, Ed. Unmute and let me know that you're okay. Okay, there she is. Yay. Excellent. All right, so let's move along. Sorry about that little technical difficulty. I'm going to just go to the chat for a minute because there's been some interesting stuff in there, and then we'll go to Nina as our next caller. Hold on. Let's see. Yeah, people have asked how they get it. If they haven't gotten it, we put it in the chat. But you know what I'm thinking as well, Reina, is how else are you doing outreach on this so that you're getting deep into the community? Are you, what kinds of groups are you sharing the link to this with?
So the flyers were sent out. I always forget the name of it, but it was from, I believe, the one of the state organizations. They sent it out. Now we in the mail. And so now we are trying to connect with people who we know, the state council sending it out. And so we are sending the flyer out to more individuals and connecting with regional centers. So that's kind of the process.
Okay, great. So another question that's asked is, yeah, so Sue's asking, do we fill it out with the person with the disability who answers for those who aren't able to do so? We answered that. And is a service plan with the regional center the same thing as an IPP? Yeah, I mean, I would definitely go back and ask some questions about the person-centered plan, which is different than the IPP planning. Let's see. They ask about changes to the budget being easy to change. Are they talking about the budget or the spending plan? So I don't know if you want to scroll back up to that question, Reina. So let's look at the way the language is on that one. Because they're different. You have to sometimes change the budget, but more often than not, people are changing their spending plan. And I actually never saw the term spending plan in this questionnaire. So yeah, it's probably lower than that because these are all the questions. Oh no, how often do you receive information?
Understand the information. I can.
Yeah, it says it's actually below, it's towards the top. It's below how, yeah, you found it. Okay, good. So how easy for you to make changes to your services or your budget? So they're totally different things in the self-determination program. So one is changing your budget, which you do in a negotiation and an IPP with your regional center. But then if you want to change your spending plan, which are your services, those are decisions you can make on your own, but you do have to inform your regional center and your FMS. And sometimes that can be very problematic.
Okay.
So I think they should probably be asked separately. Okay. And then Christiana is saying she's found this whole survey to be very confusing. So our answers may not apply to what you were trying to ask. And then Vi is saying, as you mentioned, Judy, I don't know how to answer these questions as a parent of an adult. As an example, do I, as the mom, understand how to make changes? Yes, I do, but my son's understanding doesn't exist. Do I answer as myself or as if he's completing it? I would have the same question, actually, for my own son.
That is a wonderful question. Yeah, so you would answer that in that case as yourself.
Okay, so you as the parent do understand. All right, so that's going to get a little confusing because sometimes you're answering like, did you ever get involved in self-advocacy stuff? Obviously, you're answering as the person. So maybe it would be helpful to have some clarifications.
Okay.
Or maybe you want to do different surveys, one that self-advocates answer and another one that everyone else answers, so that it's using the second person as opposed to the first or third person, I guess. So Barclay Lynn says, I want to rave about the SDP. It's awesome for my son. I'm not sure this survey allows me to do that. The questions don't meet the description of the program. And I agree. That's a great point, because the reason why we wanted the survey we put it in law is because we wanted to show the examples of all the amazing things that people are able to accomplish. And a lot of that is done in the narrative parts that people fill out, and that, so you might get to some of that, but it's like, how has the self-determination program changed your or your child's life? I mean, that's like a basic question that people could answer. The self-determination program is at risk right now, Reina. There's so many barriers in front of people to be able to participate that that we're worried about how long this whole program is going to last. I mean, it'd be hard to get rid of it because you have to pass a law, but we want to really get at the barriers, but also get at the great opportunities as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Okay, Nina, I'm going to go back to the questions, the hands raised. Go ahead, Nina.
Okay, well, once again, thank you, Reina, for being here. Really great of you to do that. And Fernando and Judy and Connie and a lot of the comments got to, my points. I just want to reiterate some of them. One thing, I thought I had read somewhere that you wanted this to be very easy and quick to fill out. As is, this would take me so long to fill out. I don't see this as quick in any way. Even if I did understand, everything, which I don't really. I can tell you that, sort of similar to what Fernando was talking about, some of these questions just made me nervous right out of the starting block. And that is like these questions about housing or other things that I'm not exactly sure why they are related to the self-determination program. And I think you could, like, as Judy said, some of those look like they come from maybe NCI, stuff, and you should either get rid of them. But if for whatever reason you feel attached to them, you know what, I would explain the relevance of every question. If it's in there and you're requiring it to be filled out, you should say what the purpose is in terms of this survey and what kind of information you're trying to get at. Because this was just making me very nervous reading through it, honestly. Things like, again, on that service plan thing, I think, points all made, that is very much calling it that is like a provider point of view a lot of times. Like feels like a provider driven notion, but I think I know what you guys were after. But when you see it, for the recipients to, people you want to fill this out, certain terms just like they grate and I just get very wary, and I don't know why, but this survey made me nervous, not happy. Although there's a lot of work and a lot that's usable here. But also, I thought you had said this isn't just for people in self-determination. I think it's fine if it is exclusively for that and or people who were in but got out. But if it's designed for people that are just stuck in the process in the entry, portal, this would be hard to fill out. So I guess those are my basic concerns, and you should definitely not ask somebody to list out their services or what their spending plan provides. That would take, that would just take a very long time, and people are already beleaguered by things to fill out. So those are just my random points, but I so appreciate your openness and your willingness to hear from us.
Thank you so much. And again, writing down notes, and I really appreciate all of your input. Absolutely.
Thanks, Reina. Pierre, hey, Pierre, go ahead.
Thanks, Judy. Reina, thanks for coming and sharing your work with us. We'll echo what others have said before me, and I have a couple of specific questions. One is, you mentioned that you put in questions to get the information that they told you to get. Who was they?
Yes, so this was from, a lot of it was from kind of the state legislation. And there was a statute where or a number of statutes and things that they wanted to measure. And it was from a report, and they kind of said, people in the state legislature said, this is what we want to capture. So that kind of guided some of the questions.
So I'm gonna stop there and read what it says to make Pierre's point.
No, I've read it, Judy. I've read it.
And I'll go back to you, because I just want to make it clear that a lot of these questions don't relate. So it says the state. So ultimately, the state council is in charge of this. The state council, in collaboration with the Protection and Advocacy Agency, which is DRC, and the federally funded University Centers for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities, may work with regional centers to survey participants regarding participant satisfaction under the self-determination program, and when data is available, the traditional service delivery system, including the proportion of participants who report that their choices and decisions are respected and supported, and who report that they are able to recruit and hire qualified service providers, and to identify barriers to participation and recommendations for improvement. That's it. That's all it says. So a lot of these questions about doing self-advocacy, that's like straight from the NCI. So I'm not sure how much all those need to be in there. But anyway, go back to, I just wanted to point out to read it. Go ahead, Pierre.
So one of my questions is, I'm the chair of one of the local advisory committees, but also my background is program evaluation. So for decades, I've evaluated various types of social programs, like the self-determination program. Is there a copy of a research plan that I can get a copy of?
There is one. It's through the state council has it. So I would need to check with them. I don't know if you have contact with them, but I can also ask them.
I'll call Aaron and ask him to send me a copy.
Okay. Yes, and Aaron is who I've been working with, so he could provide that.
No. So this is essentially trying to serve as a participant satisfaction survey, the one mentioned in the legislation. Are there other data collection efforts going on?
There are, and I believe USC is doing some work in that, and I think.
Do you know what they're collecting data on?
I'm trying to remember.
I'll get it from the research plan. That's fine.
Okay.
I rather than belabor this, I'm going to strongly recommend that your team goes back to the drawing board and gets input from DVU and other key players before you field another version of this. You've heard lots of stories about how this is hard to fill out, it's not appropriate, and so forth. And I'm not sure who was advising you, but I definitely think you need to sit down and do a test run with knowledgeable people, which this forum is serving as today, but before you actually send it out for filling out by other people. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Dear. Joyce Thomas, go ahead, Joyce.
Hi. I'm going through the questionnaire, and I called my younger son over to look at this. Just going by the 3 questions, he already went, stop. It was so overwhelming for him to see all this that he was just like, no. And I said, are you sure? Because I wanted to get his input real quick. And he was like, too much, too much. And then one of the questions he asked, he saw one of the questions, he goes, well, why do they care where I live? He's very much like, it almost feels like to him, like another barrier, like it's about to create another barrier for him. Like he has to step through another hoop to get a service. And that's the perception he's feeling right now. Like, is this a new barrier for me? Is this something I have to like prove that's needed? So that's how that question came off to him. The other thing is the QR code. I get it. It's very tech, but I think the link would be much, much better. I posted in the chat that if I were to go in the hospital for any reason, my mom had to fill this out for me. She has no idea what a QR code is. And I'm sure a lot of the older parents, it's going to be hard for them with a QR code, especially with a cell phone. And I have readers. So if I had to sit there and do a QR code with a cell phone, am I playing with this? Whereas if it's a link, at least I know the writing's gonna be a little bit bigger and better to read. Mm-hmm. And I don't have visual issues. I'm just older. So I can't imagine for somebody who happens to be, having a blindness and trying to figure out how to get that QR code to work for them. But I think the questions literally have to be shrunk. Like less is more. That's the best way I could put it. Less is more. Cause I only scrolled through 3 or 4 of them and it was just too much for him. And he was just like, no.
Okay.
I mean, that's the big one. And he just felt that the few that he saw, he said it felt like you're just trying to create another barrier for him. That's his perception of it, that you're creating more hoops that he has to jump through to get a service.
Got it. Well, thank you for giving that feedback. And that's kind of how it came across to him. I really appreciate kind of hearing that.
Yeah. And I'm not saying anything bad about it. It's just that was his perception.
Yeah.
I just asked him to come over real quick to look at this. And he was just like, why is this, some of the questions I can see, but some of them the second he said about the house, he was like, why do they care? Why is that important? So that kind of threw him off. Right. So thank you though.
And thank you. And that is so not the effect that we want the survey to have. So I do really appreciate hearing that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joyce. I'm going to just read a couple of comments in the chat or questions, and then we'll go back to, we have a lot of hands. Yadira is asking, does it save progress if you need a lot of time to complete the survey, or does it have any kind of time out?
I do not believe that it does have a timeout. No.
Okay. So if you start it, you can walk away, come back to it. But if you refresh it, does it start all over, or does it save it? Okay. All right. So if you're going to start it and then walk away, keep it open on your screen, everyone. It will not have a timeout, but if you refresh it, all your answers will be gone. Okay. Debbie asks, it would be helpful to have people define what they think their community is. The city they live in, a geographic area, but more than one city or county, a group of people they spend their time with, or more than one group of people. So yeah, I mean, community is a sort of an amorphous term. And I've seen that's a question from NCI, by the way. And I've seen that being a challenge there as well.
Okay.
Okay, so, oh yeah, so Christiana's asking, when you ask for your budget, like when you ask the amount of the budget, could you put in a budget range? Because some people are in the process of going in, so their budget hasn't actually been finalized yet. Mm-hmm. So that may be what we want to do. Okay, Jen, go ahead, Tim.
Hi, from the self-advocate standpoint, most of these questions are complicated and more geared towards to the families and parents than the person being served. I would rather see two different surveys, one for self-advocates and another one for families. Also, as a self-advocate and a person who is an SDP, I was a bit taken back when there is a question about being conserved. This survey is not pleasing at all, and I personally will not be filling out your survey because it looks very clinical and from a medical model, as if I'm visiting a new doctor that is taking their first intake without understanding my disability. I'm actually offended to most of the questions that is on the survey because it's not person-served driven.
Thanks, Tim. Appreciate that. Tim's one of the leaders, just so that you know, Reina, Tim's one of the leaders in the state on the self-determination program. And speaking of a leader in the state on the self-determination program, go ahead, Howard McBroom, a longtime SCP participant. Can you unmute, Howard? There we go. Great.
Hello, Reina. My name is Howard McBroom, and I am a participant in self-determination and also the vice chairman of a committee, the local advisory committee with Pierre Landry as the chairperson of. And I feel it very important that people know all the good things that self-determination has done for them. Now, I will tell you that I was the first person in my regional center, the Rantham Regional Center, to get self-determination. So you can say I was something of a trailblazer. And self-determination has made an enormous difference in my life. I have been able to do so many things that I could not have done if I did not have self-determination. In fact, they have probably kept me out of a nursing home because when I first got into self-determination, I was able to walk. But then I got stricken by an autoimmune disease, which essentially destroyed the nerves in my legs, and I can no longer walk, and I'm now a high support need person. Now that hasn't stopped me from doing what I want to do. I work for Esta. I am an advocate for them. I teach American history. I teach an advocacy class for Esta, and I also have a poetry group. And I work in Power Hour for Esta shows. And all of these things would not be possible if I did not have self-determination. Because without self-determination, I could not begin to pay for, the support needs I now need. So self-determination has been enormously beneficial to me, and it helped me greatly. And I would, be willing to meet with you, Rena, and your sponsor in person and talk to them about how much self-determination is and how important it is and why we need to educate people about what it can do for them. And that's all I had to say.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I'm so happy to hear that it's had such a wonderful effect on your life and allowed you to do so many fantastic things. So thank you.
We don't want to create more barriers. We want to tell people how good this can be for them and how much it can help them and how self-determination, how empowering the disability community can help everybody. That's what we want to do. And I'm sure Judy Mark would agree with that.
I would. You need to do some focus groups and get people like Howard and Tim and others in it because they can talk to you about how life-changing the program is. And it would be great to have that in the report. Okay, just going to do a couple more. Marie Bergam is saying that she may need help in filling this form out. So if people call the phone number that was on the flyer, can the questions be asked of her and then you record the answers?
Yes.
Okay,
definitely.
Great. Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, Christiana is making the point that there were no questions using the terms spending plans. There were no questions using questions about the FMS and whether FMS has been helpful or created more barriers for us. You should know that the FMS is a huge issue for a lot of folks. Many of them are not taking new clients, and so creating giant barriers to participate. Hold on, moving. Somebody asked if it was operating Spanish. We hope it will be. Mary Ellen says, you are obviously a very smart woman. I'm sure you guys should know Reina has a PhD, so she's clearly very smart, and she's at UCLA, which is the best university in the country. So therefore, sorry, USC people. So definitely must be very smart. But this survey is unacceptable for the SDP community. As Judy is saying, it needs to be overhauled and then translated, and then the Latino community to have an option to at least be in an in-person discussion or to get help from community leadership. So I think Mary Ellen's echoing a lot of what Fernando said as well. So I think there's multiple ways to get at these various communities, depending on the way that they feel most comfortable in answering questions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Somebody's asking, Vanessa's asking, could a service plan mean spending plan? And we talked about that. No, service plan does not. Service plan, what we're figuring out actually means the IPP. So that's going to need to be clarified. Mm-hmm. And Laura, this will be my last one, and then I'm going to go to Chris. Lourdes says, I received it from the UCLA Tarjan Center. Self-determination program evaluation. As a Hispanic independent facilitator, I'm able to share that the QR code is a barrier for most families I work with in the SDP. They need a link, not a QR code. So, so in the flyer, it might be a good idea to have both, sort of a simple link that people can just type in as well. Mm-hmm. But I think the way you're going to get different communities to answer this is by using the community-based organizations to promote it. So that's going to be your best bet.
Great.
All right. Chris Miller, go ahead, Chris.
Hi. So while I was listening to this, I started taking the survey, and I was looking at like the questions at the end about the spending plan and how much it's, my budget is, and all of those sorts of questions, which I declined to answer. I didn't answer because I thought, well, they're nobody's business. So I got the option at the end to continue in submitting the survey without actually answering those questions. I don't know if that threw out my survey response or not. But part of the problem that I think people have with getting and going through services in general is services are rudely nosy, and people have to give a bunch of information about themselves to receive those services that not everybody's entitled to. I feel like the survey's a little bit lackluster and super disappointing, because part of my job with what I do is helping people get into self-determination in my area. And there's a lot of people that aren't going to want to even participate that I talk to if they have to go through things like this in order to do it. It just seems really weird.
Definitely. Thank you for that feedback, and hopefully by the fact that it's anonymous, this isn't something that where we have any say into who gets in the program or not. But I really do appreciate, and what I've been hearing is how personal some of this information is. So I do really value that feedback.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Chris. Joyce asks, Joyce just says in the chat, I agree with Lourdes. If I were in the hospital and my mom had to watch my son for a few days who is Peruvian, she would have no idea what a QR code is. And Mary Ellen says, this survey as written will provide misleading and inaccurate information. It cannot proceed. Again, with respect and appreciation for what you are trying to accomplish. And honestly, Reina, I'm going to have to agree with that. I hope, and I want to be very clear. I did not ask you to come here. I had not even taken the survey or even looked at more than the first few questions. So I did not ask you to come here to sabotage the survey. I want the survey to be super successful and to show how amazing the self-determination program is to the state legislature. So I want to be your biggest booster. And the reason I asked you to come is to get people to just fill it out, right? But I kind of feel like the way it's written right now, you might need to shut it down immediately, and then maybe meet with us, meet with a couple of other groups. There is actually a statewide advisory committee on this that's meeting on Friday that you might want to go to their meeting and talk to them about it. But there are local advisory committees, a statewide committee that could give you lots of really good feedback on this. Mm-hmm. You've heard from a few members of their local committees today. So you might want to shut it down, revamp it, and then start over, which is like I know it's a problem because you've already spent a bunch of money mailing out these flyers, but yeah, okay. Lourdes then says, I have never encountered the word service plan from the regional center. We use IPP and then a PCP for the SDP. So this is not terminology we use. And somebody asked to put the survey link again. And Lauren is asking me not to talk over other people, who's our interpreter, because I always do that because I have New York blood in me. So I apologize. So Christiana, go ahead, Christiana.
Hi, I want you to know that I did get the flyer and I did fill it out. And I was very confused by it as I filled it out. And when you just said that these are legislators who are trying to find out information about self-determination, I would have answered those questions completely different, because we love self-determination. It's been life-altering for my son. And yet we do have stumbling blocks, but the way it's written, you don't have the opportunity to say the great things about it. And I think that's really important. We're going to send the wrong message and the wrong data to the legislatures because the question, I'm not sure what question you're asking in there. And if the question could just be super simple, are you happy with it or not? Because that's what our legislators need to hear. We are happy with the program. We need to fix the administration of it, but we are very happy with the program. And I don't think that there was any way to put that in the survey, in the answers. Mm-hmm. And so, because I am somebody who already filled it out, I am concerned about the data you've already gathered. It's not correct. Or at least mine. I can only speak for mine. I know the data the way I answered it, because I didn't understand the questions. When you were saying service, I thought it was traditional system. So it's the data you got from me was completely off.
Got it. Thank you so much. And I wrote down, we do, and our hope too is we really want to capture those positive pieces as well. And so it sounds like that can definitely be emphasized more.
Wonderful. Sally says in the chat, the survey does make me a bit nervous too. It does not connect well with our terminology, which causes confusion. This means the results can't be trusted and could be misunderstood. Kind of saying what Christiana just said. And the purpose of the survey isn't understood either. Does it match the SDP purpose? Kudos to Reina for enduring our critiques. I agree. And we want to totally support you, lend, and I'm working around Christmas, so anytime you need me, just let me know, and I'm happy to talk it through with you. Lourdes says, I love this question about the area of service providers to have the right training to meet my needs. We need providers to get training to work with our loved ones. Of course, in the self-determination program, we pay for the training for our service providers, unless we're using a traditional agency. So that question to me was a little bit confusing, because I could see being asked, if you're in the traditional system, do your service providers get enough training? Because you're not responsible. It's the service provider agencies that do the training. But in the self-determination program, I pay for training for my son's, or not my son's SDP spending plan pays for training for his staff. So it's a little bit of a different way to ask that question. So, and then I'm going to go to Fernando, and then I'll go to Beth. Fernando says, Reina, it is also important to find out if families are interested in the SDP and not in the questions. It should be directed to, the question should be directed to why they're not. Where are they in the process? What is holding it up? Because that's one of the big things, is that so people who are trying to get into the program are having barriers at various points along the way. And so you need to ask them specific points. How soon do they plan to migrate over? What is holding it up? Also no specific questions on barriers or roadblocks that have impacted them. Lastly, if asking about language used, it should ask about the individual in the SDP and what language the primary circle of support speak. Food for thought. Great. Okay, Beth, go ahead and ask your question.
So I'm the dreaded Mary Ellen. My chat was wrong.
Hi, Mary Ellen. That's so weird.
Idea who Mary Ellen is. I'm on my own PC. I don't know what gremlins are in the system today. But Reina, I just wanted to make sure that you're hearing overwhelmingly that we don't think this survey can go forward as is, and it should be just terminated. And secondly, I don't think us giving you a bunch of feedback from a bunch of different people to send you back to the drawing board only to come back and for us to have more feedback will be very effective or very kind. So I'd like to suggest that the people that wrote the law, who are also the people that wrote that statute of what the survey should be, which would be specifically Judy and Connie and maybe a couple of other people, Judy, get together in a small work group and give you a set of effective questions that will get at those answers and allow those of us who are participating in the community to really feel like we can share the great things about the program, as well as the areas we'd like the legislature to focus on for future funding. I think those are the two areas that the legislature needs to know. How much value have they given California families, which is tremendous, 2,000 of us, and how do we get more of that value to those 2,000 families, plus, the rest of the 400,000 if they choose to participate. So that's my thing. I don't want you going back trying to change this, because I don't think that will.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And like I said, I'm taking notes, and I plan to talk with all of the people who I've been working with and let them know these are some things that I have heard. And I do really appreciate what you are all saying.
Thank you so much, Reina. So Gilda's saying for some, a QR code is a barrier physically as well. For an example, someone who has limited hand movement. So we have to think about people with disabilities who may or may not be able to use a phone, or maybe not even have an iPhone have a phone that has a camera that can open up a QR code. So we have to, that's where we need to get deep into the community to help people fill this out. James is saying it is also good to gather information from different sources as well. Lourdes said that her son found offensive the typo of transgender male as one word, while transgender female was given the correct spelling. Oh, that's so interesting. I'm going to look at that real quickly to see what you mean by that. Oh, yeah. Your transgender male, it's a typo. So we want to make sure that we that's one thing that is more easy to correct. Michelle was saying it starts all over, and after 5 times, you do not have access to the questionnaire anymore. So if you've gone back to it, then you can't go back to it. Somebody was asking what NCI stands for. Sorry, everybody. It stands for the National Core Indicators. I'm so sorry. I hate when I use acronyms. National Core Indicators is an annual questionnaire that is conducted by a national group and they contract with the State Council on Developmental Disabilities to conduct this questionnaire. 1 year, the survey goes to self-advocates, and the next year it goes to family members. A lot of the questions in this questionnaire come straight out of the NCI. So I found it kind of interesting that that would be a choice that they would make for you, Reina, since there's already another methodology to get those questions answered, and they're not related to the self-determination program. So Miriam is asking in the chat, what is the purpose of this survey? You will get a lot of answers from people who have problems with the program. That doesn't mean they don't want the program. My fear is that the program will be discontinued if the survey shows dissatisfaction and problems. Again, that does not mean the program is bad, but it might be perceived that way. That is a really great question. And I think talking about the purpose of the survey at the beginning would be super helpful. Mm-hmm. It talks about, yeah, I think that it wouldn't be hard to come up with that purpose. And actually rewriting some of the questions in a very positive way to say, you know, how would you describe the self-determination program? Click all that, check all that apply. The self-determination program has changed my life. The self-determination program is the best thing that's ever happened to me. You know, like some really positive things. Mm-hmm. So that would be great. Okay. Yes, more questions, more specific. It's usually when you say trans man or trans woman, they're two separate words. Mm-hmm. Okay. There's a lot of comments on poor Mary Beth not being able to get her name on there. I know disparity is an issue for regional centers in general and in the SDP also. I get the sense that perhaps this is what the question is about. Not really sure which, maybe the budget question, not sure. Go ahead, Howard. Did you have another comment?
Yeah, Judy, would it be possible for me to meet with some of the people in the state legislature, either in person or on Zoom? I feel I could do a good job of telling them why self-determination is so important and how much it can help somebody. I think I could do that, and I would love an opportunity to do so.
I will personally make that happen. Thanks, Howard. Appreciate that.
You're very welcome. And Reina, we appreciate you coming here, and please don't feel like you're being roasted. We're here to help you and make the survey better. And I would love to be able to talk to the state legislature people, maybe along with you, and see if we can get our positive story across.
Well, thank you so much. And I definitely appreciate hearing those positive stories. And I think that would be wonderful to hear how it has really impacted you. So thank you.
Thanks, Reina. Joyce is saying, I had my older son look at it and he feels it's invasive on the diagnosis list. And it also feels as though it's a laundry list of an assessment. I'm sure you've heard of the difference between the medical model and the social model of disability. Well, the traditional system is like the medical model, where put down your diagnosis, what are all your deficits, and let's fix you. Self-determination is strength-based. So it's not about what your diagnosis is. So to say that is for many people is like, that's not self-determination. Mm-hmm. And it's really about, you know, what are your hopes and dreams and your strengths? And then what supports do you need to meet those goals and your hopes and dreams? So that's a really good point, Joyce. Joyce also said he is also asking an actual differently abled person help with these survey questions. Did a person within the self-determination program look at this? Did you test out this survey with actual people in the self-determination program?
Yes, we had one of our self-advocates look over this.
And is that self-advocate actually in the self-determination program? Because 99.5% of all consumers are not in the program. So
I believe they are, but I can double check.
Okay. Did you have any parents of participants in the program look it over as well?
We did not, no.
Okay. So that, I think that would be very helpful. Let's see. Mary Helen is saying that she's a surveyor for the National Core Indicators. James is saying the self-determination program changed my life completely. Vanessa is saying, I know some feel it is too intrusive and personal, but I think that is why they ask about the budget. It has been brought up that people of color have lower spending plans and budgets. And here's what I would say, it is true that there is disparity, but you don't need to ask that question about the budget, Reina, because that information exists at the regional center level. The regional centers are required to report all of the budgets to DDS, and DDS, so just like the state council and the UCEDs are required to do this survey in the law, DDS is required to do a whole set of reports, and that includes budgets by race and ethnicity. So you don't need to ask that question, because that question can be done in a non-individualized way through the regional centers reporting to DDS. Here's an idea for a question. What can you do in the self-determination program that you could not do in the traditional system? That's a really great question. I like it. Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions for Reina? We only have a few minutes left, and I have a few things that I want to say that's not about this. We were supposed to talk about our conference. We can talk about that some other time. But does anybody else have any questions, or do you have any other things you'd like to tell us, Reina?
No, I don't think so. I just really appreciate everyone's feedback and your honesty, and I definitely don't feel like I'm being roasted. I'm so glad that you're able to share that. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Reina. And we promise when you come back with hopefully a new improved version that we will be very supportive, and we will make sure everybody fills it out. Okay?
All right.
Thanks, Reina. You're welcome to stay on. I'm just going to, for the last 5 minutes, talk about a few other things. And one of the things I want to talk about is already in the chat, and thank you, Pierre, for doing it. So if folks scroll up in your chat to 5:43, so about 10 minutes ago, Pierre put in the chat that on Friday, starting at 10:30 in the morning and ending at 4, I think, is the statewide self-determination advisory committee meeting. This is a very important meeting. It's the chairs or their designees of all 21 regional centers, and they only meet a few times a year. We were hoping they would meet more than that, but they only meet 3 times a year. And they're going to be talking about a whole bunch of things, but one of the main things that they're going to be talking about is equity in the system. We know that Latinos and African Americans are really underrepresented in the self-determination program. Spanish speakers are underrepresented. And so there is going to be a panel discussion talking about how to improve participation in the program by race and ethnicity. I'm also speaking at it about the self-determination conference. So a lot of the stuff we were going to talk about today, I'll be talking about at the meeting. And then DDS will be there to report on what they've been doing. And Aaron Carruthers is going to report on what the state council's doing in regards to this survey. So if you have concerns about the survey, you might want to come. It's towards the end of the day when that part of the agenda is. Reina, you might want to be there for that part, because I have a feeling some folks will have some very specific things to say to Aaron. So if I really encourage people to go. I know it's a gigantic time commitment of the whole day, so be there for the parts that you can. They also record the meetings. And then in our last few minutes, I guess we might have time for one or two comments on the conference. We have heard from emails from a lot of folks that people really enjoyed it, that there was a lot of really constructive conversation at the conference. And hoping if anybody wants to make a comment on it. We loved having you all there. We had 830 people register for it, which was amazing. And we hope to do it again sometime that's actually in person instead of virtually. So glad we didn't do it in person because COVID is rampant. So any other questions or comments, because we're coming about 4 minutes in? Yeah, go ahead, Ed, sorry. We can't hear you, Ed. Okay, that's so weird. Ed's microphone is not working. Okay, she's gonna try to figure that one out. I mean, she might have gotten a private message of a question. That often happens with Ed. So we'll wait. And folks, have a wonderful holiday. Please stay safe out there. My whole family just got COVID. So you just want to be, just honestly, this is a good time to lay low right now and just be with close family and then celebrate Christmas in like February. That's what I would do instead of going to big giant events, because it's really kind of dangerous out there right now. Ed, are you able to try to unmute? I cannot hear you if you're talking, Ed. That sucks. So, all right. So we will be back in the new year with lots of really exciting topics. I don't know what they are because honestly, we're just still recovering from the conference, but we are going to have lots of great topics. And, oh, hold on. She's texting it to me because that is how flexible we are. Joyce asked, when will the conference be uploaded? Great question. We're hoping, honestly, by next week. I'll be honest, the English has already been uploaded to a private unlisted playlist. What we're trying to do is also upload the Spanish. So all the ones that had Spanish or Korean interpretation, we're linking that, and it's a really complicated process. We try not to put things out in English only before putting it out in both English and Spanish, which is our delay. If it gets too delayed, we will email out to all the attendees the English link as soon as possible. So it's basically ready to go, guys, in English, just not in Spanish yet. So that's all. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful holiday season. Happy New Year. Here's to a beautiful 2023 that is safe and healthy and together someday where we can actually hug each other.
Happy Hanukkah, Judy. Happy holidays.
Thank you. It's Hanukkah on Sunday. Thank you, Howard. Take care, everybody. Love y'all. Have a great week. Bye, or year.